Alright, I'm just going to start. Okay, I don't know if there's anybody here. I don't think so. But I'm just going to start because I just want to get this stuff on record. Just give me one last second here. And make a note. You know what? Sorry, I need a little bit more time. Please forgive me. Hello, Love Driver. So, I'm just putting up some notes here. Yes. Less material. Okay, so here we are. Today is 15th of July 2024. Actually, let me just check in over here in person. 15th of July 2024. This is a little spontaneous live stream from TarotLumination because there's a lot happening. As you know, we're in this crisis period right now, 10 days before, 10 days after, pivoting around July 15th, which is tomorrow. We've already had tremendous catalytic events in the last few days, obviously the big one being the attempted assassination, and then full recovery, and then the big fight thing, and then the Republican National Convention started early this morning. I think it's over in Wisconsin, I can't remember. And already a new vice president has been announced, and it's kind of a big deal. And so I thought I'd do a little bit of homework on it, and I'm going to share that with you in just a few moments. It's just an awful lot of, like I would say, information, content, material is, bubbling up. Things are very, very frothy at the moment on the internet, and the news, and even the mainstream news is going through some kind of metamorphosis. It's just very, very bizarre. Love Driver just informed me that NBC itself is now starting to call out Grandpa Joe and his ridiculous gaffes and his language, his inflammatory language about bullseyes and MAGA and so on. It's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing, but it's also a relief. So let me just go back to the thing I want to get off of here first. I want to talk about the choice of vice president. There were a lot of good folks out there. If you're into, conservative, patriot, MAGA type leanings, then this should be quite pleasing for you. If you hate Donald, all of it's bad, so don't even think about it. But anyway, I am personally very pleased with the choice. His name is J.D. Vance, and he's been on the list pretty much since the beginning. I had a strong feeling J.D. Vance would be way up there in the choices. There are a lot of people who I think are awesome, but they need to stay where they are in their particular office, departments, locations, job titles, and so on. For example, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, Kramer, a bunch of others, just to get the job done, keep things going, keeping the pressure on. And there were some interesting names like Vivek Ramaswamy and a few others. But anyway, Trump announced it early this morning. He's chosen J.D. Vance. And so I was chatting to Love Triber, and there was even speculation. We were actually chatting before the announcement. And then within minutes of chatting, the announcement came out, so there was nothing to chat about anymore. And no speculation. And so I said, well, I probably have to do a little mini astrology thing on J.D. Vance, see what that looks like. And Love Triber pulled up some readings for J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and so on and so on. It's quite interesting. So there's a lot of harmony, divine harmony, divine intervention, astrological harmony that's going on behind the scenes that I'm pretty certain that neither Donald would be aware of or JD would be aware of, but it's there anyway. You've probably seen a lot of the video content now online where a lot of people are saying it's divine intervention anyway, that Donald is even alive. And of course there's a lot of chatter going on about how the assassination attempt was a spectacular failure for the deep state, and so on and so on. And a lot of people are starting to rip apart all the video footage, analyses. There's background chatter with different Secret Service retirees and professional snipers, and so on and so on, to give their takes, their perspectives. There's talk about Thomas Crooks himself, and so on and so on. There's some crazy stuff. I'll come back to that maybe in a little bit. But let me go to the chart here. I want to show you something. So anyway, here's today's stuff, right? So we're at the crisis point right here. Okay, it's multiple crisis points, because we've got this big one, and this secondary one happening over here, all simultaneously. And it's showing up in the global headlines just as we predicted. So I did some digging around and looked at various sources for astrology of J.D. Vance. There he is, J.D. Vance. Couldn't find too much, honestly. We got his birth date, but I haven't been able to find a time of birth. So it's 2nd of August, 1984. Time of birth. So I decided, here's what I'm going to do. And in these situations, I always put the sun in the first house, and I put the 0 degree on the horizon. Okay, so that puts, this is what his chart would look like using my method. And I always do these as a secondary or even a primary chart when I'm doing private readings with people anyway, because it's a very, very powerful indicator, despite whatever time you're born, despite your ascendant. Okay, so all we have is Leo Sun, Libra Moon, very harmonious there already, Mercury is over, oh, did I miss it? Didn't I mark it? Oh yeah, here it is. Mercury is in Virgo. Venus is in Leo. That's very sweet. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus. Mars is in Scorpio. Jupiter, Capricorn. Saturn is in Scorpio. Uranus in Sagittarius. Neptune in Sagittarius. Pluto in, interestingly enough, like 29th degree of Libra. So I'm not going to do an in-depth analysis, but there are things that really, really jump out to me personally. And I'm doing this in regard to Donald Trump, okay? Because this guy, J.D. Vance, has just been selected as the vice president for Donald Trump. Okay, so, you know, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but my feeling is that what Donald would want is someone who's feels very, very close, trustworthy, on the same wavelength, same principles, same values, same beliefs, ready to jump in at a moment's notice and represent Donald as needed in real time if Donald had other stuff to do, so on and so on. In some ways, it might be a very thankless job, but in other ways, it's an extremely important job. Hello, Jessica. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen. So a couple of things really jumped out at me, and I'm going to, I guess, how can I highlight them in ways that you can see? I know that the yellow shows up pretty well. I would love to use green, but I don't have Donald's chart here, and I can't do an overlay. I'm not going to do a very complex overlay because it wouldn't be fair without knowing the rising sign or the birth time. So I'm just going to go very, very loosely here. And I'll come back to Donald's chart in a minute, but the things that jump out immediately. The Leo Sun and the Venus in Leo from J.D. Vance is incredibly powerfully supportive to Donald Trump in his own first house, Leo, where he has a very, very powerful Pluto in Leo, conjoined Mars in Leo. That's serious powerhouse leadership energy, condensed, amplified, multiplied, okay? Compounding energy, Leo leadership, okay? So JD definitely shines the light and amplifies all the power and the soul and the heart of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a warrior. He is a fighter. He will fight to the death, literally, as he has just proved. So this is very good news for Donald. The next thing is that Donald has a strong Gemini trait. Okay, he's a man of the people. So this is very complementary to Donald's Sun and North Node and Uranus, which are all in Gemini. So that's very harmonious from J.D. Vance to Donald Trump. Next, we have the Libra Moon, which is also very supportive of Donald regarding Donald and his Sun sign, North Node, and Uranus. Very, very important when it comes to the bigger picture in just a moment. For the time being, I'm going to leave the other things. I'm not going to mention them. Third, this is where it starts to get really freaky and interesting. It's exciting to me. J.D. Vance has North Node in Gemini, very similar degrees to Donald Trump. His North Node is conjoined with his own Chiron. So JD has a very, very serious journey in life ahead of him that runs in an exact parallel path to Donald. Okay, here it is. Okay, this axis here is fundamentally important to the relationship between Donald Trump and J.D. Vance because they are literally, it's almost like, two guided missiles on the same path, or like aircraft carriers supported by lots of destroyer ships, and so on and so on. Because Donald is very, very, very much a fighter warrior. Okay. It also happens that J.D. Vance is ex-military, retired, celebrated, and so on and so on. Now here's another even crazier, interesting thing. Using the chart this way, using a solar alignment, which is what I love to do, guess what? We have Taurus on the midheaven for J.D. Vance, right here, which also matches the Taurus midheaven, roughly a few degrees, for Donald. So this is beyond freakish in terms of, let's say, divine intervention. Okay, now I'm going to try and do it as gracefully as I can in my own clumsy amateur homemade doodles manner of doing things. Now this may or may not freak you out, but I think it's beautiful. Look at this. Now, give me some liberty here. Give me a little bit of freedom here with my astrology. Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, and so on and so on. There's the North Node axis for Donald. There's the midheaven for Donald. There's the North Node axis for JD. There's the midheaven for JD. These guys effectively have it's like, what do they call it? It's a positive feedback loop. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. They both empower each other beyond who they are, what they can do, how they can be by themselves. This is, in other words, JD amplifies DJT. DJT amplifies and enhances JD, all in very, very positive, mutually supportive, mutually beneficial manners. Freakish, huh? Now add on top of that the extremely important Sagittarius-Gemini axis for North America, the Leo North Node for North America. Well, think of all that firepower, all that Leo amazing firepower from J.D. Vance combined with Donald and his Mars and Pluto, all aspecting the North Node of America, basically acting as a guiding light for the United States to ascend to its North Node destiny, okay? Instead of wallowing in its very, very sick, unhealthy South Node energy, which is heavily activated right now, mostly because of the deep state. To me, this is astrology at the cutting edge. It's just beautiful. This combined with this, combined with this. None of this is a coincidence. This is history in the making. It's all divinely ordained. In other words, on the grand scale of things, Donald is here to be who he is today. J.D. Vance is here on Earth to be who he is today. And it's not a coincidence that Donald and J.D. have come together in this lifetime for their purposes now in America. So there you go. I'm going to put that aside. So I just mentioned these notes here. I just put them on paper as a reference so I would have them for you, but I just talked about them. The Libra stuff, the Leo stuff, the Gemini North Node stuff, and the Taurus stuff. Okay? So anyway, let's put that aside. I already mentioned how we are still at the crisis point, reaching the absolute tipping point of the crisis point, which will technically be tomorrow. But there we are. And now I just wanted to move on a tiny little bit, expand from there, and go to my little bit of a rant, okay? Okay, if you don't mind. Okay, how are we going to do this? Cheers, everybody. Okay, so myself and probably hundreds of millions of other people across the world, we've been randomly grabbing snippets and headlines and YouTubes and Telegrams and X's and Twitters and Discords and Substacks and TikToks and other YouTubers, all offering their perspectives and opinions about what just happened during the recent astrological crisis point. Anyway, I'm just sharing my little tidbits. I believe J.D. Vance is an excellent choice for VP. The rest of this week is all about the Republican National Congress, just to basically put the team together to make sure that over the next 3 or 4 months there's as maximum power as possible that is agglomerated from around America and the actual potential voters on November 5th. There is just a spectacular momentum building up. This is history, a very, very, very big moment in history for America. As you know, I'm very concerned about the global financial system, so I'm watching the most fragile aspects live as much as I can. Specifically and deliberately looking for fragility, looking for signs of cracks in the system. We already have that, but the cracks are very, very good at covering themselves over because the people who operate the system have developed their patching system to cover up the cracks into an art form where you never even knew that the cracks appeared in the first place. So at the very, very, very pinnacles of power right now, we have the United States Federal Reserve banking system, which is, of course, heavily entwined with the United States federal government, the United States Treasury, in terms of Grandpa Joe, Janet Yellen, and Jerome Powell, all acting as a sort of like a monster. It's like this monstrosity that is clinging to power because it's desperate for power, and it knows that it's at a potential threshold of losing astronomical amounts of power and money and control. And the world has never been in this exact situation before, so the rest of us are observers and witnesses. Sometimes it's victims, and sometimes it's opportunists. There are people that I watch who are extremely shrewd financially, and they are all set to prosper because of what is happening with the White House and the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay? We should probably do another video on that because it's profound in how it affects the whole of the world in terms of our pocketbooks. So it's happening live real time right now. The US Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank, is just full on buying up more and more and more debt from all the big heavy-duty retail banks that are not allowed to fail, even though they have catastrophic off-the-books losses in their books already. So long as the Fed keeps buying all that debt, it keeps the big retail banks afloat. You know, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Chase, Bank of America, and so on. And all the second tier, third tier, and fourth tier banks, and so on and so on. But despite all that, some banks are crumbling and collapsing. In China, because China and the United States dollar are deeply entwined. we have the United States debt farm in a very, very sick marriage with the Chinese slave camp. Both of them use debt as the power tool of intimidation, control, enslavement. Okay, that's a shared methodology, but it plays out in different ways because the political structure is a little bit different. So right now, China is headed by this maniacal character who insists on modeling himself on Stalin and Mao Zedong, who together are responsible for tens of millions in terms of famine and starvation because of the policies that were imposed by Mao Zedong and Stalin. But Mr. Ping worships those people for some reason. And he insists on keeping going and consolidating his power, money, and control. And the more he keeps going in his direction to satisfy his lust for taking over the world, the more and more his own economy is collapsing and imploding. His own party, the Chinese Communist Party, is coming apart at the seams. There is mutiny inside the party right now. Mr. Ping already knows it. He knows his economy is collapsing. He knows the Chinese stock market is imploding. He knows the yuan is collapsing. He knows his life is in danger all day, every day. He knows he can't stop any of that in real time. And so his current solution, as I understand it, is that he's decided we're going to have to go to war. That's it. Because that's how he's going to prove himself to the world, how magnificent he is and how amazing his policies are, and as a result, how amazing China is. Even though inside of China, if you go to China Observer right now and just dig in the last couple of days, you'll find evidence that about 800 million Chinese people live on less than $140 a month. Mr. Ping claims that he has lifted them out of poverty. I don't know about you, but I would find it very hard to live off $140 a month, okay? Russian Thoughtbot, good point. The Chinese, they're not allowed to have guns. What they do is they resort to sticks and they resort to fire and mass protests. And in return, they get very violent actions perpetrated against them. We, the people of China, are completely screwed. They're completely, utterly screwed. In the next 3 or 4 years, I'm expecting to see horrific headlines about famine and starvation. So there's that going on. And this is real time. Right now, the Chinese financial system is literally going this way. And so they, just like the American Federal Banking Reserve System, they are printing astronomical amounts of yuans to try and avoid the inevitable. There's nothing else that they can do. It's the standard operating procedure for a collapsing, imploding economy, government, and leader. The same thing that happened in Weimar Germany, same thing that happened in America just after the Roaring Twenties, so on and so on. So China and the United States Federal Reserve are kind of in lockstep together as they implode simultaneously. And it's affecting American citizens directly. Most obviously in terms of purchasing power. In other words, because the Fed is buying so much, trillions of dollars of debt so fast, it means that the rate of inflation is going like this. Now, inflation is a beautiful magic power tool that's very effective for the elites. But it's very bad news for the peasants. Okay? But the elites keep going anyway because they don't really care about the peasants. We are here to be harvested. So the Fed is at the point almost like parallel with China and the CCP, where they don't have any other option except to keep printing and printing and printing. And so as the inflation goes up and up and up and up and up and up, and the M2 money supply goes up and up and up and up and up, the value of your dollar goes down, 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 down. So that means asset prices go up, 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 up. And the asset prices are what count for the major stakeholders. In other words, BlackRock, State Street, Blackstone, Vanguard, Fidelity, and the United States Federal Reserve, and the United States federal government. Okay? But again, we the people, the peasants, it's not so good for us. I mean, we have to pay a lot more for food, gasoline, rent, credit cards, car payments, just life. And it's happening all over the world because what the Fed is doing has to be mimicked by all the other central banks, or the other central banks get screwed. So if the Fed prints more, then the other banks have to print more, or they go out of alignment. If the Fed stops printing and raises interest rates, it changes everything. For example, let's say Jerome Powell decides, you know what, things are so out of control, we have to tame the inflation. We're going to stop printing money and we're going to jack interest rates up to 6 or 7%. That will send catastrophic shockwaves across the world. But simultaneously, any loose cash will flood into America to take advantage of the 7% interest rate. Crazy stuff, huh? It sucks for we the people in America, the American consumer. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I'm keeping a close eye on those financial headlines in particular. Everything else is secondary to those two. As you probably noticed, there's a lot of questions coming up. I've got my little notes here. Okay, a lot of questions coming up about what happened the other day. Hey, Bubba. Hey, Bubba. Do you want a sip of my water? You expecting to have a sip of my water? You don't have to. I'll just readjust here. No worries. I'll come and take care of you in a minute, okay, Bubba? All right? I love you, Bubba. There you go. A lot of questions are starting to come out. Huge amounts of questions and material, and lots of little, video clips from the big event for the assassination. Video clips from all sorts of different angles, and it's providing more and more context for the viewers and the consumers and the podcasters to formulate responses and opinions. It's very interesting. Like the latest thing, one of the obvious things is the Secret Service itself is being held accountable. Like, why was this such a spectacular failure of the Secret Service? How did this happen? Well, some people say it was on purpose. It was all staged and planned accordingly by the deep state. It was supposed to fail, but not quite the way it turned out. It was actually supposed to be a real live assassination, which would give the deep state a complete major green light. It's time to go, 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 people. This is going to be civil war. It's going to be a hot war. There's going to be riots, revolutions. The MAGA crazies are going to go around slaughtering everybody, attacking lefties, civil war everywhere. That's going to give us the excuse to initiate martial law and cancel the elections. Kaboom! Well, the plan backfired really, really badly. Really, really badly. Now there's a big oops moment because now everybody is dissecting the event and it's becoming more and more sinister the more and more time goes on. Some people are pointing out that there's some very strange disparities in the timeline between the moment that the shooter was observed climbing up the roof, getting onto the roof, getting into position to shoot. There's that issue. There's the issue about pre-planning for all the security. There's the issue about Trump was denied full services of protection from the Secret Service. That's on the head of Alejandro Mayorkas and the head of the Secret Service. Remember, Alejandro Mayorkas and that lady, the head of the Secret Service, they work for Joe. Isn't that a coincidence? A lot of stuff is coming out, obviously, because Joe and all the Democrat Party is coming unglued. They're coming seriously unraveled, and it's becoming very, very hard for them to hold their positions without looking ridiculous to the public. And so Love Triber just pointed out to me that even NBC, mainstream media, NBC itself, is starting to call out Joe Biden on his ridiculous behavior and gaffes. It's crazy stuff. A couple of very interesting ones that I enjoyed was from Dr. Steve Turley. He had some footage that I hadn't seen anywhere else. Very, very profound stuff. You might want to check it out. Dr. Steve Turley, he's on YouTube. It really makes you ask some questions. It really makes you feel like, my God, there really is such a thing as God. The thing that really, really struck me was the preacher on camera from 3 months ago, March 15th, was it? March 14th or something? March 15th, had a very powerful vision, which included the assassination of Donald Trump with a bullet going through the ear. Okay, the other thing was, during the assassination itself, somebody managed to get some footage of the American flag that was blowing around in the wind. And there was a period of time where the American flag looked exactly like an enormous guardian angel that was watching over the whole event. It's freakish. It's absolutely freakish. You have to watch it. Do your own research. The next thing that I really enjoyed watching, because I like seeing what I think of as the enemy coming unglued, live, real time. It's enjoyable for me. There's another channel, Redacted. They're doing some deep diving, and they've got some spectacular video contents where there is a collage video that has been compiled by some whiz kid that's showing 4 screens simultaneously, multiple different camera angles from the event using material collated from the internet in the last few days, the last day or so, reassembled and re-edited, and with a ticker, a time ticker at the bottom, tick second by second by second by second. And when you put all of these things together, it really, really blows your mind. Again, I highly recommend it. The channel's Redacted, Clayton and Natalie Morris. So there you go. I just wanted to share that with people. Spectacular stuff. It's very interesting to me how Donald has become even more powerful and risen to more, I don't know what to call it. It's kind of spectacular. And he's already full-on active at the Republican National Convention. I think it's over there in Wisconsin. And of course, from here onwards, there's going to be a very, very awkward time period between now and November 5th, where the deep state itself is going to be figuring out what the UCK are we going to do now. We just blew our ace card. This was supposed to take him out. This was supposed to usher in the Civil War, which would usher in martial law, which would usher in the cancellation of the election by executive order. That's all gone. So now what does the deep state do? Are they going to try another assassination attempt? It's probably not going to work because the very same Secret Service people are going to be under heavy, heavy scrutiny to do a much better job going forward. Well, we'll see what that looks like. Anyway, I just wanted to share, oh yeah, a few other things that I watched that I really enjoyed. I was checking out some military channels, especially professional snipers, retired military, retired Secret Service, and so on and so on. And they're all saying effectively the same thing. This was a massive screw up. There's some kind of miscommunication. It doesn't make sense. Let me do one more little thing over here that I didn't prepare properly. Hold on. I'm going to give you a little teaser thing. Hold on. This is going to be very, very rough, of course, as you know. Oh gosh, where am I? I need my other Astrodoodle. Let's put this aside for now. Hi, Boo Boo. I'll put that over here. So, one of the things I saw, I thought it was very, very interesting. It was a description of how Secret Services would normally do their proper job to secure a location for an event to protect a president. Okay? And it works kind of how you would expect it. You start from the most important point, which is where the president would be, and then you go outside in concentric circles farther and farther and farther out. And the farther out, you just keep identifying where are the points of risk, where do we have to put guards, where do we have to put assets, binoculars, shooters, snipers, police, Secret Service, agents, whatever it is, blockades, whatever. Okay? And that would be a complete concentric circle that would go like that. Now, what happened at the event for the assassination was that the delineation for marking out the security perimeters, instead of a circle, it looked like this. You could see it very clearly on a map. Okay, so this is a big hollow question mark zone over here. Why was this section not secured properly? Over here is the stage, and there's Donald right there in the middle, okay? DJT, right over there, okay? There's all the buildings and all the people and everything and stuff, and then there's this building over here with the rooftop right here. There's the other building over here. There's the cops over here with the snipers. Cops slash Secret Service slash snipers. This is all well documented. That's over here. And then over here is the shooter, Thomas Crooks. It's freakish. It's absolutely freakish. Here's the stage. Here's thousands of people, okay? Absolutely freakish. First of all, this should be a full circle. So there's huge, huge question marks on this area here. Why was this area ignored? Obviously, deliberately. Here is the line of sight for the fire, for the shot. That's orange, by the way. And there were a total 8 shots fired. And the first shot was fired even though the snipers had him in sight. How did that happen? There are so many questions. Very, very strange. Hello, Diana. I'm just about to wrap it up. But this is a humongous problem right here. Doesn't make any sense. And of course, you've all probably already seen all the crazy videos of people describing, oh, I saw the guy over here. I saw him climbing up over here. And then the cops are wandering around. What? Where? Oh, I don't know. Oh, what am I supposed to do? And actually, another video showed that there was a cop who did climb up here on a ladder and saw Crooks. Crooks saw the cop. Crooks turned on the cop, pointed the gun at the cop. The cop went down. Didn't want to lose his life. Anyway, you can do all your own research on this. I'm just sharing things that really kind of blew my mind. I mean, I'm already convinced that it's a deep state operation that kind of backfired really badly. But I didn't know I couldn't imagine how worse it could possibly be. So anyway, the other thing that's actually very good news for Donald, of course, you probably heard about that too. The AG down in Georgia dismissed the Jack Smith documents case against Trump. She basically said, this is a junk case. The appeal got approved, and Jack Smith was deemed ineligible to even be doing what he was doing. So the case is null and void, is dismissed. That's it. End of it. It's all falling apart. There you go. Just another day. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of that. Do your own research, as they say. Take care, everybody. I'm going to check out very quickly here. I'm going to leave it on for a little bit so you can chat amongst yourselves if you're interested. Love you guys. Be loving. Be loved. Protect your money. Protect your privacy. Protect yourself. All right? You know what? I'm just going to play my little 2A song, because why not? You know? This is my song that celebrates the Second Amendment in order to protect the First Amendment. It's very rustic. Call it rural or Americana if you want. But this is what it sounds like. Straight from the brain and the heart of
this my
TL.
song.
All right? I hope you like
From
it.
TarotLumination. It's pretty rough, but I hope you get something out of it. When will I stop being censored? All I'm doing is speaking the truth. Instead I am labeled as a domestic terrorist extremist with a short fuse. The fake news just lies and suppresses. The Marxists are writing the scripts. The unaware masses get led to their slaughter while patriots try to resist. Oh, you can't take me down and you can't shut me up. I got the First Amendment by right. And if the first one is threatened, I've still got the second. I won't go down without a fight. Yes, we still have our sweet Constitution, but it's severely being abused. Our only solution is a new revolution to take back what belongs to you and me. I'm sick of the perverts and pedos trying to normalize child sacrifice. They revel in evil and their satanic rituals packaged in their delicious lies. No, you can't take me down and you can't shut me up. I got the First Amendment by right. And if the first one is threatened, I've still got the second. I won't go down without a fight. It all began way back on 4th of July in 1776. The founders and fighters gave their lives for our freedom. I don't want to live through that again. You see, I'm recalling a past life from that exact time. I shed blood to shake off the chains of the tyrants and despots who owned us like cattle. But if I have to, I'll fight them again. Oh, you can't take me down and you can't shut me up. I got the First Amendment by right. And if the first one is threatened, I've still got the second. I won't go down without a fight. No, you can't take us down and you can't shut us up. We got the First Amendment by right. And if the first one is threatened, we've still got the second. We won't go down without a fight.
Thank you.
Hope you liked it.
Hope you liked that. Bye-bye.